Hello, Be Wise family. Welcome back to Be Wise podcast. I'm Belize, your host, and I'm super excited to be back. Hope you're having a good week. On today's episode, it's something very close to home, something you did not see coming, but it really makes sense once we understand it. I'll give you an example. Have you noticed that when people go to work abroad, when they travel and they move their careers to other places, they tend to succeed more than when they're home? Do you ever sit and wonder why? It's simply because of one thing, to be honest. They are stepping out of their comfort zone, okay? And that is the topic for today. So let's get right into it. Why comfort zone? What exactly is comfort zone? What do we understand by that? It's that place that is safe, that is comfortable, the routines are the same, everything is perfect. It just keeps you going. But when people are abroad, they are forced to get out of their comfort zone because the systems are different. Transportation is different. Buying groceries is different. You're now getting used to a different currency. But why do we human beings tend to just adapt to that and we manage to do it when we are abroad? Why not do it while we're still home? Okay. So, being abroad makes you face unfamiliar spaces, but you don't need to be abroad to get out of your comfort zone. It's just a direction we're taking today. So, how do you get out of your comfort zone when you are home? Just everyday life, wherever you're at. It's simply by shaking up your routine. Start by simply shaking up your routine. Try to do something different. If you're used to doing a thing in a certain way, try to do new stuff. Go to that gym. Start reading new books. Try a new dish. Try cooking other things. Meet people from different cultures. That is going to push you out of your comfort zone. It is scary. It is unfamiliar. But guess what? Success relies on us being out of that comfort zone and taking that bold step. Another thing I would want to talk about is motivation and discipline. Most of the times, when we're home, we have the same restaurants we go to, we have the same friends we hang out with, we have the same things just routine wise going on for us. But when you are abroad, you're forced to try new things, you're forced to have that discipline. Why can't we do it on our own? Why can't we do it on an everyday routine? So the first step to do this is embrace change. Start by doing things out of the familiar. It's going to build that motivation and that discipline that you can stick to, which will help you be even better in everything that you do. One thing could be explore new recipes, explore new places around your community, explore different conferences, for example. Go to those workshops, do things out of the ordinary, and it's going to widen your horizons. It's going to make you feel better. We don't have to wait to go to new places to adapt. Why is it that human beings, when we are forced, we go to other places, we don't have the choice. We do it promptly because we want to thrive and get to that space. But we don't have to wait to travel to other places for us to learn that motivation and discipline. You can implement it by trying new routines. And another thing that I would say about people who live abroad, why they tend to succeed, is something called cultural exposure and broadening your horizons. When you are abroad, you tend to express yourself in different ways by meeting new people. You're forced to learn the languages. I have a friend of mine who just moved to China and they're taking the first year to just learn the language. And we're having the conversation and they were like, I wish I had done this before I decided to move. It's taking those bold steps ahead of time before life forces you into the box. The part of traveling abroad is an example, but let's apply it to ourselves. How do we do it? How can you do and build that same mindset of cultural exposure without having to move out or move out of the country or go to a different place? You simply need to set those routines, hang out with different diverse communities, go out there and force yourself to be out of your comfort zone because your comfort zone is safe. It's going to tell you, oh, just sleep. You don't have to attend this thing. You don't have to meet these people. You don't have to take on that big project. But when you are in another place, you're forced to do it. Let's change that mentality and have that same attitude towards ourselves on a regular basis. Another thing I would say is the part of when people live abroad out of their usual countries, they develop this independence and resilience because being away, it forces you to rely on yourself. You don't have anyone to ask, oh, where's the train? You will have to step out and ask people where to go, and it gets you out of your comfort zone. It gets you out of the routines that you're used to, and you build that resilience to keep pushing through. And guess what? That's where the growth part comes in. That's where the resilience comes in. That's where the boldness and exposure comes in, and it helps you become a better version of yourself. So until we adapt and learn to get out of our comfort zones, we're not going to succeed, and we're not going to tap into our potential that is there waiting for us, because there's always a better version of yourself out there. But what are the steps do you have to take that will help you get to that part? It's simply by getting out of your comfort zone. Another thing that is going to come with this, to be honest, is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of feeling that you can't do it. For example, when people do travel abroad, we're going to stick to that. When people travel abroad, you're scared of the unknown. You don't know where to the groceries are. You don't know where you're going to buy the essential stuff, but you force yourself and you get to learn those things. So why not apply that same attitude to ourselves? How do we do it? You simply start by start small. Start small. Step into those rooms where you don't feel comfortable. Take on those projects, as we were saying. If being in a gym is uncomfortable for you, start with walks, start with little things that are going to propel you. If you cannot read a whole book, for example, challenge yourself and say, this week I'm going to try read 3 pages, or per day I'm going to do 1 paragraph, like that. The more you lean into it, the more your mind and body gets used to it. And you find yourself over time, because of those built up routines and everyday things that you're doing, you get to become more bold and stronger. So your comfort zone can be your enemy, but there's always a way to get out of it. The best way to get out of it is challenge yourself. Take those little steps. Try meet new people. Have mentors. Have people that show you a different angle of life, and have those support systems that we were talking about in the previous episode, because your support system keeps you accountable and they propel you to become a better version of yourself. So if you have those goals and you're pushing yourself to get out and build that resilience, build that discipline, have that broadening of your perspective. How do you do that? Of course, you have to read and have mentors, have those things that help you think different. Otherwise, if sometimes you sit down and you reflect and you find yourself not being where you're at, sit down, pause, ask yourself, what am I doing that has become so familiar that it's limiting me from tapping into who I am meant to be? Of course, you're going to realize that there are certain things that you're so accustomed to, that you're so used to, that it makes you not propel and take those bold steps. Once you acknowledge those things, then you start taking the steps and saying, okay, what can I change in my life? Who do I change? Do I need to change certain friends? Sometimes our friends also do have a role they play if they're not propelling us to be better. We have those comfortable conversations, those everyday things, but try meet other people who challenge your thinking, who have a different type of experience. You find yourself having a wider horizon, broadening your horizon and your perspective of things, and you realize there's so much out there to tap into. And if people are living abroad and they're managing to change and they're forced to do these things and they succeed, they do what they're meant to do, why can't we change that perspective and bring it to our everyday lives? You don't need to, I'm not saying you need to travel to change yourself. No, I'm saying you need to have that same attitude. The same way you're forced, you don't have no choice. You do these things without having to be begged. But when we are in our comfort zones, we don't think of changing these things because we have nothing pushing us. We are in familiar environments, we're in familiar routines, which inhibit us from growing. So as we end the year, as we are concluding 2024, I want you to sit down and reflect and see, what have I been so accustomed to? Or is there other things that I need to implement into my life that can get me out of my comfort zone? Do I need to take on new projects? Do I need to learn a new skill? Do I need to take a new course? Do I need to register and be part of a new community, a new environment that is aligned with where I want to be? once you start working on those things, in the long run, it's going to be so beneficial. The fear, lean into it. Overcoming it is going to be simpler if you just lean into it and take those bold steps. Otherwise, the comfort zone can be your enemy. And as I said at the beginning of this episode, success is there if we step out of our comfort zone. It's on the other side of comfort zone. So you have to take that leap of faith, take those actions that help you become a better version of yourself. Then you will see that the world is limitless. We are meant to grow. We have endless possibilities, but it requires us getting out of our daily routines, our usual routines, and challenging our minds to do, okay, what can I do better that is different? Start small. I'm not saying take on this big thing and say, I'm going to get out of my comfort. No, look at those little things, change them routine wise gradually, build that discipline, build that momentum, build that resilience, and eventually you're going to see yourself fulfilled and feeling much happier. Like the people who travel and they live abroad, they're forced to do it. And guess what? They come back stronger. They are forced to network and they end up succeeding more. It's not always, but majority of the time, when people get out of their usual cities and usual way of living, they succeed because it's the attitude and that discipline that they build into themselves and life forces them into it. It's like you're thrown in a pond, learn how to swim and you don't know how to swim. Somehow you learn along the way and people do thrive. So fight that comfort zone. Make sure it doesn't control you and don't stay in it for too long because time wasted does not come back and your comfort zone can be your enemy. But again, it can be your friend if you learn to get out of it and build better ones and start learning to grow yourself. And of course, as on Be Wise family, we're trying to be better. Stay tuned. I want to thank you so much for listening. And of course, hit that subscribe button. Once again, I'll remind you, your comfort zone is your enemy. Learn to get out of it, like the people who have to live abroad and they succeed. Thank you so much for tuning in.